Okay, so we right. So we're looking at the question of the Harini Kaparat Mishkavo, right? How does one understand what this formulation that I should atone for the sins of my what's it called, of my Rebbe when he died? So what does that even mean, right? How am I supposed to do that? Okay. Then we have we wanted to know, this is where we started off this week. Where does a Rebbe get the desire to teach and raise students? And he doesn't have an obligation to do so. So why would he teach and raise students to the level that they become like a child to him? Why would anybody put that much effort into something that they're not obligated to do? Right? Where does that come from? Okay. What's the connection between honoring chachamim and parents that we see that's so frequently mentioned in Chazal and we saw mirrored in the Rambam? Everybody agrees to this idea. So where does that come from? Okay. What is the mumar? Conceptually, right? This rebel that doesn't listen to the Sanhedrin. So what is the mumar? When it comes to mitzvos relating to parents, why does the Rambam start off with the negative, that you're going to get executed if you curse your parents? And then lastly, why are the mitzvos of kibbud aveim, right? Why are they mentioned in the laws of mamre, right? Of the person that doesn't listen to the Sanhedrin. Good. So those are our 9 questions that we have. Okay. So those are the 9 questions. Okay. Yeah. What I'm gonna do is, let's see if this helps anybody. I'll put them in the chat, and that way we can keep them here. Everybody can see them. Okay. So these are the 9 questions that we're dealing with here. Okay. So now, okay. So let's. So I'm going to give a very quick svara, like a really quick svara here that will I think then go ahead and answer our questions. But it's like a very fast svara. It's not like So this is what I think. I think that honoring a chacham and a Rebbe is what the idea, not philosophically, not why we do it, but what it is. I think it's a validation of the Mesorah. Okay, meaning that we have a Mesorah to guard, right? That's the Balei HaMesorah, the Jews' obligation is to pass the Mesorah on. That's what it is by definition. It's a tradition. So from Har Sinai, right? Moshe Kibel Torah, Masra Yoshua, and he was Moser. He gave it over to Yoshua. That's our obligation. So we not only have an obligation to pass on the Mesorah, but we have an obligation to validate the Mesorah. Honoring one's Rebbe and honoring Talmidei Chachamim, who are the people that are passing on the Mesorah. They are for all intents and purposes, they are the Mesorah, right? They are the ones that are the tradition, right? Because they're the ones that are passing this on. So I think that that honoring the Rebbe is the validation of the Mesorah. So let me show. Everybody understand? Anybody have any questions on that? Make sense? Okay. So let's look. Let's see how that works itself out in terms of the answers to the question. So our first question was, how can a person show kavod to a parent or a Rebbe after death? Right? What's the nature of that halacha? So we looked at it because the way we understood when we asked the question, what we understood the idea of kavod, of giving honor, is making the person happy, is satisfying the person, right? The example par excellence of kavod is bringing my father a glass of water when he asks for one, right? That's kavod. So now that my Rebbe has passed away, right? So I can't make him happy. Well, what could possibly be the idea behind honoring him if I can't make him happy now? What is the purpose of this if it's not kavod as we understand it? So, but now if you understand there's a greater idea, it's not just getting water, it's not satisfying your parents or your Rebbe's desire. That's not the idea. But rather respecting parents and Rebbe's is connected, both. It's connected to the idea of continuing the Mesorah, right? Because what it's doing is it's connecting and it's keeping the connection alive to those that came before you in the chain of the Mesorah, right? That's the idea. That's what you're doing now. You're connecting, you're keeping that chain alive, right? So the responsibility to show and to validate the Mesorah that this isn't something that I came up with. Right? I'm not. These aren't my ideas. These are ideas that have existed. They are general ideas. I'm merely explaining the ideas. These are not new ideas that I'm bringing up. This is not my own tradition, my own sheni that I'm creating. This isn't my own religion. This is something that came before. So that doesn't end with a parent or a Rebbe's death, right? With a chacham's death. Why would that end at that point? If the whole idea about it is not about the Rebbe, but it's about the Mesorah, and the whole reason why I'm giving honor to the Rebbe is to show, hey, this is where what I have comes from. So then that's just as much of an obligation posthumously as it is when the person's alive. What's the difference? It's not about the person that died. It's about me. And it's about my obligation to show that the Mesorah that I'm teaching and that I'm learning comes from the generation before, comes from the one that taught me before. So that's why I have to show honor even after death, right? It takes a new look at the whole idea of honoring, right? The whole idea of honoring, we thought, was about satisfying the person's desires, right? And my Rebbe needs a cup of water. He's thirsty. I'm going to satisfy the desire. That's the show of honor. One can understand, if you understand honor that way, so honor is really a way of gratitude, right? It's a way of showing thank you, right? My Rebbe gave me so much. My parents gave me so much. They want something. I'm going to give it to them, right? But if that's true, then it ends at death. So in order for it to continue at death, there has to be another aspect to it besides just saying thank you, besides showing gratitude. It has to be about this idea of validating the Mesorah, okay? So now we have this debate in the Gemara, because the Gemara on the one hand puts Rebbe at the same level as parents, on the other hand doesn't. So how do we understand the contradiction, right? They're two contradictory Gemaras. So how do we understand the Gemaras? Where are they both coming from that we can understand the contradiction? So, and the contradiction stems around kriah, around ripping, right? That's where it's about that in one Gemara it says that when it comes to ripping, so we have the same obligation to tear for one's Rebbe as we do for one's parents. The other Gemara says that when it comes to kriah, that's not true. Parents are at a lower level. Okay. So when it comes to, there's really two dinim, there are two laws when it comes to kriah here, okay? There's the number one is the need to validate the Mesorah, okay? That's number one, right? And that, when it comes to parents and Rebbe, they're at the same level, right? That's for sure. So they're at the same level when it comes to validating the Mesorah. But there's a second din to kriah, and that is the mourning of the person. Right, the individual is mourning, right, and that, right, there's an emotional connection between the people, and that has to manifest itself in the constructive action, which is really deconstructive, which is a whole different thing about the laws of kriah, but that has to manifest itself, the personal mourning in kriah. So there is no personal mourning, even though people are very close to their Rebbe. There's no personal mourning between the Rebbe that's similar between the Rebbe and the parents as there is between the child and the parent as there is between the student and the Rebbe, right? That personal level of mourning doesn't exist, but there is a level of personal mourning, obviously, when it comes to child and parent. Right, so that's the second Gemara that says that they're not at the same level. Rebbe and parents are not at the same level, right? That's not true, okay? Because when it comes to the personal mourning of the Gavra, of the individual, they're not at the same level. When it comes to validating the Mesorah, though, that parents and Rebbe do play the same role. They are at the same level. So one Gemara is coming and saying, do you know what kriah is? Kriah on a mace is a reflection of the validation of the Mesorah. It's showing the fact that my connection to the Mesorah has somewhat been interrupted now, and in order to reflect that interruption, I'm going to tear kriah. In which case, Rebbe and parents are the same. The other Gemara says that's not what kriah is. Kriah is a reflection of personal avelos, of personal mourning, and personal mourning doesn't exist between student and Rebbe, right? So there's no reason for them to tear kriah. So that Gemara separates the two. So the two Gemaras are coming from two different perspectives, which is exactly where the Rambam and the Ramban differ, right? When the Rambam says that one does have to tear kriah over one's Rebbe, what he's saying is that kriah is a level is a way of validating the Mesorah. It's showing that the Mesorah has been interrupted, and therefore, in order to reflect that, I have to tear kriah. When it comes to the Ramban says that's not what kriah is. What kriah is a reflection of personal mourning. Rebbe student, no personal mourning that he doesn't need to have. Good? Okay. I get a little nervous when nobody talks, but okay. I'm assuming that the shir is just so amazing that everyone's just agreeing with everything I say. Okay. Okay, the Gemara here, look at source number 31 here. The Gemara says, Amar Reish Lakish, Harini Kaparas, Rebbi Chia u Banav, right? So Reish Lakish, when he would say this line, right? He would say that, right, the Harini Kapara line, that I am the atonement for, so he says for Rebbi Chia and his sons. Rashi says, Harini Kaparas, what does this mean? So Rashi's explanation is, Yisurin Habayin Alai, the Kaparatal, Rebbi Chia Banav you. Lashon kovod uzeh. So Rashi says, this, what is this? This is a language of kovod, of honoring. Right? So he has to say this out of kovod, meaning Rashi doesn't take this literally, right? He doesn't say that you're actually praying to God, whatever my Rebbe is going through, or in the case of parents, whatever they're going through, please put this on me, right? That's not what he's saying. That's not the idea, right? What he's saying is that this statement, right, is a statement of honor, right? It's recognition by the student or by the child that their is going through some sort of it's going to sound strange, but some sort of transition, whatever metaphysical transition that is. I recognize that my Rebbe and my parents have just passed, and they're going through this transition, right? So and that, right, that and therefore, right, as somebody, okay, listen to this, as somebody who's also going through a transition, right? What's the transition that the student and the child is going through? They're going through the transition because their connection to the Masorah has now been interrupted, right? So I'm recognizing that both myself and my Rebbe are going through some sort of transition now, right? And in order to draw that connection, I say, Harini kaparat mishkavo, right? So that I recognize, right, that this transition is painful. There's some sort of pain here, right, that's going on. And therefore, I'm saying that pain, as a sign of honor, I recognize my Rebbe's transition and I mention it. That's the idea. Because, right, why is it mentioned within the context of kapara, of atonement? Because any sense of pain, right, pain is what brings atonement, right? Whenever you look at what brings atonement in Chazal, right, they're always going to bring up that there's some sort of pain that comes through, right? So I'm going through some sort of transition of pain without my Rebbe, and my Rebbe's going through some sort of metaphysical transition, whatever that is, right? And both of us are, I'm hoping that this pain somehow translates into atonement. Okay. If we look at this Rambam here in
excuse me.
Yeah.
Do we have this concept of pain and kapara when we do tshuva?
Yeah.
Where do we see that manifest itself, like on Asher Shemei Tshuva or whenever we do tshuva? Where is this concept of pain?
So the Rambam has a list of sins that we don't get kapara for unless we go through yisurin, unless we go through pain, and sometimes it even requires death.
But those are exceptions.
I don't know about that.
If I speak lashon hara and I want to do and I want kapara for that, and I go through the stages.
I have to look up the list, but it's not a small list. There are things that sometimes you have to wait for Yom Kippur to come, and during that entire wait time until Yom Kippur, that Yom Kippur is atones for my sins, right? So first of all, Yom Kippur itself is a day of pain. It's a day of inui, right? So that's the nature of Yom Kippur, like we learned, right? So so the nature of the day of kapara, of being retired from our sins, is a day of pain. You see it just in Yom Kippur, right? The sins that we have to wait for Yom Kippur. But during that entire time, we have a misnomer that we say that, okay, as long as I do tshuva, come Yom Kippur, I'll be forgiven. But during that entire time period, let's say I sin today, and now I got to wait till Yom Kippur, I have the status metaphysically of a sinner. In which case that affects my level of hashgacha, my level of providence. And as much as I say, hey, God, look, I did tshuva 2 months ago, let's let's forget about this. Okay, we'll forget about it on Yom Kippur. That's when you gain atonement. In the meantime, you have the status of a sinner, and there's no moving away from that until Yom Kippur. So that level of separation from God itself is a level of pain. Might not be physical pain, but it's a level of pain. Same way, my missing my Rebbe is a level of pain, that I don't have my Rebbe with me, right? That my connection to the Masorah is somewhat cut off. That's the idea. But I don't know if we have just regular painless, if we could say that there's just simple painless atonement. I think that atonement always comes with some sort of pain. Might not be like Hollywood style pain of roasting on a fire in hell, but it's but it's some sort of a pain. Okay, we had our question that we started off today. Those are all the answers from last week. Okay, so today, right, we had our question is, where does it get from a Rebbe that he teaches and raises students? So I love this Rambam. I just had to throw this in, so that was my excuse for bringing this question in. But this Rambam says as follows: is the Rambam in Sefer Mitzvos when he talks about Avas Hashem. So he says, "Mitzvah shlishis hishitzivanu la'avo yisale," right, to love God. V'zeki kishitayev adam tasim libcha alav, right, when a person loves something, right, so he puts his heart to it. V'tachshvehu v'tavakesh anashim la'avoso, and he wants other people to love it as well. It's not enough, right? I have my favorite sports team. I want everybody to like my favorite sports team, right? It's not enough for me to like it. I got to prove that it's worthy of everybody's love, right? Not just my own, right? That's what we do with love, right? V'zeh tzad hamashal. Okay, kishita'ayev hakel be'emes kama she'yiel lecha me'asagas amisaso hine ata b'lo safek tidrosh v'tikra hakofrim v'aschalam yedias emes. So when she'yedas also. So when somebody loves God, right, what they do is, right, when somebody loves God, so they go out and they go out to all the heretics and the people that are not believers, and they spread the knowledge of God. Right, so that's what Avram did. Avram was called, right, the one that loved God and that God loved, and Avram went around and he spread the knowledge of God. It's not enough to just keep it to yourself. So a Rebbe, a Talmid Chacham, who acquires the Torah and is full of Torah, so it'd be ridiculous if they just sat. There's something wrong with somebody like that who just sits by themselves and studies. If they don't call other people to it, it's a lack of their understanding of the uniqueness of the Torah, the specialness of the Torah. It's a lack of their love of God, right? You can't just sit by yourself and study. It doesn't make any sense. At a certain point, right, you have to then go ahead and bring it to other people. That's what happens when you love something. So if I love God and I love His Torah, so I'm going to bring it to other people. So that's the Rebbe. Even though the Rebbe doesn't have an obligation by nature, when the person becomes part of that Masorah, they then have to spread it. Okay, so right, a parent that right, instinctually, a parent raises their child, right, because that's the way human nature is. That's our biology. Our biology is that instinctually we raise children. We don't just give birth to them and then leave them off on the street corner like animals, right? We raise our children. That's who we are biologically. That's how we're built. But a Rebbe's love of his students, right, to the point where they become his children, that's not natural. That comes once they fill themselves with a love of Torah. Okay. Why is it that the chachamim are always, right, the honoring chachamim is always somewhat put on the same level as parents, right? What's that connection that we talked about? So that's what we talked about. So now we say Rebbe and parents are connected because they both play the role of continuing the Masorah, right? It's connecting to those before you, right? That's the idea. So the responsibility to validate the Masorah manifests itself in one's honoring those that are part of the Masorah, that brought you into the Masorah. So that's parents at one level and a Rebbe at a different level. Okay. Now let's get to the end here. This is if you didn't like it that much, so I think this is where the svara really shows itself. What's a mumar? What's this person that doesn't listen to the Sanhedrin? So the mumar is the person who invalidates the Masorah, right? What's the mumar doing? The mumar is going ahead, and what's the mumar saying? The mumar is saying, I don't have to listen to the Sanhedrin, right? And for me, it's what it says in the Torah. I don't have to listen to Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? That doesn't matter to me, Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? So I don't have to listen to the Masorah, right? He's the one that invalidates the Masorah, right? He invalidates the Masorah. He goes ahead and says this was the body, the institution of the Masorah, and he invalidates it. right? That's it. He invalidates the Masorah. Okay, so that's what the mumar is. Okay, when it comes to the mitzvah of relating to parents, right? So why does the Rambam start off with the negative? Okay, because what we're doing is we're connecting. What the Rambam is doing is he's connecting the laws of mumar to that of parents. The mumar is by definition the negative, right? That's how the Rambam starts off. He talks about the person that invalidates the Masorah. What's another way that a person invalidates the Masorah? By cursing their parents. What's the problem with cursing your parents? Well, okay, so you curse your parents, right? Well, every kid curses their parents at some point, right? So what's the problem with that, though? Right? What's the problem with cursing your parents? Because what's the child really doing? The child's saying, I don't need the Masorah, right? My link to the Masorah doesn't mean anything. It's invalid. So the child is invalidating the Masorah when he's Makal of Ivimo, right? When he curses his parents, he's invalidating that Masorah. That's a problem. That's a huge problem, right? That he's invalidating the Masorah. So that's why the Rambam has to start off with negative, because if he just started off by saying the mitzvah of kibbut avim is an important mitzvah, you'd say, okay, great, so I understand, because you say, oh, it's validating the Masorah. But the problem in Mamrim is not, the halachos of Mamrim is not about validating the Masorah, it's about a problem. Hilchos Mamrim is not, it's not called Hilchos Asher Yerucha, right? That these are the laws that you have to follow. It's called, the set of laws is the laws of invalidating the Masorah, breaking up the Masorah. That's what the laws are, right? So when you talk about, okay, parents also are part of the Masorah, so therefore you have to have, right? You have to list parents, but you've got to start off with the negative, right? And that's why kibbut avim's natural place, right? Where is kibbut avim's natural place, honoring parents' natural place? In Hilchos Mamrim, right? Because, right, the Hilchos Mamrim is about validating the Masorah. It's about the Masorah. It's about the transmission of the Torah and how it's about Torah Sheba'al Peh. Parents are part of that chain. So that's where it should go, right? But you'll ask one simple question. If parents are in Hilchos Mamrim, and Hilchos Mamrim is about validating the Masorah, right? So then all the more so, the laws of honoring a Rebbe should be in Hilchos Mamrim, right? Even more so than parents, right? Because the relationship with one's Rebbe is really the validation of the Masorah. Right? That should that's the idea. Am I breaking up? It seems like I'm breaking up. I guess not. So, feels like I'm breaking up. I don't know. Okay. Okay. So why isn't Rebbe in the laws of Hilchos Mamrim? Why isn't the laws of Talmud Torah? Because while it's true, 100%, it is true that the laws of a Rebbe are part of the Masorah, and that's why we honor the Rebbe, is because we're validating the Masorah. While that is true, with 100%, that's true. At the same time, the way that we validate the Masorah is through Torah study. So, and that's why the Rebbe is different than the parents, because the Rebbe is not just bringing the child to the world, but he's bringing to the world to come through the vehicle of Talmud Torah. So the laws of honoring a Rebbe, its natural place is much more so in the laws of Talmud Torah. Am I alone here? I feel like I'm alone.
You're breaking up very often.
You're breaking up a lot.
Okay, should I repeat what I said before? I don't know if it matters because I'm breaking up a lot.
Is it valid to say that there's a hierarchy in Masorah, that first comes your Rebbe who teaches you the Masorah, and then your parents on a lower level than your Rebbe, and then even your fellow man that's also supposed to give over the Masorah, or is also part of, I don't know, Tzelem Elokim, but the Torah only goes as far as Rebbe and Ava'im.
I think it's Rebbe, Ava'im, and Chacham, because you have to give kovod to all three of those people.
Oh, Chacham, who is not your Rebbe?
Chacham is not your Rebbe. You have to give them honor as well.
Because they're a transition of the Masorah.
Right, because they have the potential to be your transition to the Masorah, right? They're a kriah of the Masorah.
If you curse your Rav or a Chacham, you have the same punishment as Ava'im?
I have to look that up. I'm not sure. That I don't know.
That's what I meant by hierarchy in terms of the Torah telling you.
I don't know. It's a
You know.
good question. I don't know if there's a halacha of Makalo Rav. I'm not sure. I don't remember that. I don't.
Certainly you shouldn't do it, but you know,
Right. No.
whether
Right.
it's
Clear.
something-
But
right,
yeah, it's definitely not suggested. The question is if it's its own,
right.
if its own, prohibition, like it is when it comes to parents. That's a good question. Okay, so that's the idea. So the idea, that's our sugya, right? Our idea is that one shouldn't that the idea of honoring Rebbe, right, and honoring Talmidei Chachamim, the idea is it's a validation of the Masorah. It's not what our Havamina was, that it was a idea of gratitude and the like. Good.
Thank you. Great.
Okay, great. Okay, we're gonna be on next week. Bezos Hashem. See if we can get more people.